Dalet Perek Yud Ches, and here, remember that we've been talking about the benefit package of Limud Torah Lishma, Perek Yud Dalet, Perek Tesvav, Tezayin, Yud Zayin, and now Yud Ches. Different things that change actually we're going to learn today in the Hashgacha Pratis of Limud Torah Lishma. And what we talked about last week in Perek Yud Zayin was the idea of Kol Makabel al Atzmai Ol Malchus Shamayim, or Ol Torah Ma'avirin Mimenu. So Avirin Mimenu Ol Derech Eretz, and all the different burdens that we have in life and all the different struggles that we have in life. And that Nefesh Hachaim explained as more of an internal type of a relief of the struggle. And here he's saying something new completely. The Lazois, which he means here, I believe, let's take this a step further. Ha'adam ha'makabel al atzmai ol ha'torah ha'kedosha lishma la'amita. Now, I want to point out here that this is a new lashon. Like until now, we talked about lishma, shalei lishma. Here he's talking about ha'adam ha'makabel al atzmai ol ha'torah ha'kedosha lishma la'amita. And for us Lamdanim here, I want to understand what's the difference between lishma and lishma la'amita, because there has to be a difference. And the reason I'm saying there has to be a difference is because otherwise this parak actually is going to contradict the parak before. So let's say, I'm just throwing this out there, the parak before, Parak Yud Zayin, was talking about Limud Torah Lishma, Makabel al Torah, and here we're talking about a different thing of Makabel al Atzmai ol HaTorah HaKadosh Lishma la'amita. So what do you say? Give me somebody, one of the Rabbi Yaakovs here. Give me give me the difference between lishma and lishma la'amita. I'm getting silence. Is that because you're muted or you're muting? So he says, Kamoshi Isbar Le'el Perush Lishma, that the actual pirush of lishma, hunala mi'al kol inyanei zeho elam, puts you above all of the inyanim of Olam Haza. What's the inyanim of Olam Haza? Inyanim of Olam Haza means that we have gravity down here, we need to eat over here, there's a certain amount of smachos, there's a certain amount of yisurim that we have, struggles that we go through. So that's the Inyanei Olam Haza, like that's Inyanei Olam Haza. You need to be Osik in Parnasa, you need to be Osik in Briut, Inyanim of Olam Haza. And Lishma is somehow, when I'm not thinking about Inyanei Olam Haza, I'm rather thinking about Lishma, I'm learning Torah. I'm not doing this, in other words, to get a job or to get a bracha or to know more Torah or to be able to compete in the World Bible Contest. I'm doing this lishma. That's what lishma means. Umushkach me'ita yisbarach hashachapratis, and to the degree, follow with me carefully because this becomes very important. To the degree that we are lishma, meaning not osek in yanei olam hazeh with our Torah, but osek lishma. Lemala my hashkacha pratis. How God is taking care of me becomes lamala mehorais koiches hatzvayim v'hamazolos. So it's gewaldig. Like when Hashem created the world, He created teva. That's the way the world works, right? Teva. I mean, we're very happy for teva. Imagine there wouldn't be gravity, like you wouldn't be able to hold on to your car. Teva's a good thing. And we don't find big tzaddikim flying, or levitating. So it's teva, hateva, teva shem alikim. However, that's the way Hashem created the world. He put a teva, and also what we don't think about as much is He also put a mazel into the world. And we believe in that. We say mazel tov when somebody gets engaged. Say mazel tov when somebody is siman tov, mazel tov, yehilonu l'chol Yisrael. We believe in mazeles. We talk about every month, Adar is Mazel Dagim, etc. So we're all into Mazolos. Mazolos is another, like Teva, a new way to think of Mazolos. It's like Teva. This is the way Hashem runs the world. He runs the world with creating a certain Teva L'Devarim, and he runs the world with a certain Mazel. He uses the Koichavim or whatever to run the world. There's also, by the way, another thing that Hashem uses to run the world. These are the different, backroom items. There's Teva, there's Mazolos, and there's Malachim. Yeah. So Malachim is the Malach Gavriel, the Malach Raphael, hundreds of Malachim that only big Nevi'im were able to see or understand these Malachim. Malachim Mala, but what the Malachim are is like the busy workers that are making the world work. So it's just like you have Teva, and just like you have Mazolos, you also have Malachim. And these are all the different mechanisms, the backroom mechanisms, and that we don't see because we're end users. A little bit, the scientists can get a little bit into the Teva. So they could say this is how, naturally speaking, the world behaves. But they're not able to get into this is why the world behaves, or this is how to change the behavior of the world. I was thinking like L'Kavod Hanukkah, they're rolling out this vaccine all over the world. So they had a picture, I just happened to see on the news last night, it just struck me, a picture of, a big poster, I don't know where it is, maybe in England. There's a big poster from Pfizer, and it says, "Science will win." That's their slogan, science will win. I hope so. I do hope so, but the problem with the thinking is that we know is that it's not just science. Science is, there's also science, there's also mazolos, there's also malachim, there's also schar v'onesh, there's also the whole thing together, the whole marechet of the Bria is called hashgacha pratis. So science will win? I don't know, that was like a Greek philosophy. Jewish philosophy is Yafta Likim Liafis. It has to have a bigger picture of the whole marechet of how Hashem runs the world. You go to college for 10 years and you understand one piece of it, which is fine. Science will win. So the type of hashgacha pratis we're talking here is lamala mehoiros koichos hatzavayim v'hamazolos kulam. We're talking about now a level of hashgacha pratis which is actually higher than teva, higher than mazel, but it's hashgacha pratis. Kivan shehu davuk b'Torah u'b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu mamish kivyachol, because this fellow, this Lomei Torah, this Talmid Chacham here, who's not just learning Torah, davuk b'Torah, he's like attached to the Torah. U'b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu mamish kivyachol. Umiskadesh, he himself becomes holy. B'kedusha ha'elyonos shel ha'Torah ha'kedusha. He gets that when you learn Torah lishma le'amita, remember that's what we're talking about here, the Talmid Chacham, or the person who's learning Torah, becomes kedushas ha'Torah. Not like you're learning Torah. There's a kedushas ha'Torah, right? Everyone stands up when a Sefer Torah comes in. You kiss the Sefer Torah when the Sefer Torah comes in. We used to in the olden days. So a Talmid Chacham, like the Gemara says, like Kal v'chomer, like the Talmid Chacham has the kedushas ha'Torah, plus he's a Baal Bechira. He's not a piece of cloth. So this is an important thing to understand, that the person who's learning Torah lishma has the kedushas ha'Torah. Shehi lamala le'ein aroich, it's at a whole different level. Le'ein aroich mikol ha'olamos. By the way, le'ein aroich means incomparable, right? Is that the way we usually translate it? Le'ein aroich. But what it really means is beyond the marechet. Le'ein aroch. there's a marechet of teva and mazel and malachim maybe, and all kinds of things that happen. What goes up must come down. And then there's ein haroich. There's something which is higher than even all of that, out of teva. V'hi hanoisenas, and that place, hi hanoisenas hachiyus v'akiyum l'chulam l'chol koiches hativim. That's what gives koach and chiyus to everything. There's a generator which is even higher than the teva. Harei ha'adam ha'isik ba. So if somebody's learning Torah, mechaye u'mekayim es kulam u'lamala mikulam. U'lamala mikulam. It goes even higher. Ve'ech efsher shetahei hanagasei me'ita yisparach al yedei ha'koiches hativim. He's involved in how the world works. And one more sentence, and then I'd like to explain. This is what Chazal meant when they said, Ad shomayim chastecha, pasuk in Tilim, that your chesed Hashem goes all the way until the Shemayim. Freik the Gemara Psachim, it says, Me'al shomayim chastecha. Why did David HaMelech say, Ad hashamayim chastecha, until the Shemayim? It also says, Me'al Shemayim Chastecha. And the answer is, like Kasha, says the Gemara, Kan ba'iskim lishma, kan ba'iskim shalai lishma. And there you have it. There you have it in Chazal, that Hashem's chesed is in the world that's part of Teva. But if one's oisik in Torah lishma, says the Gemara Pesachim Daf Nun Amud Beis, then you're oila lamalo min hateva. Okay. Everybody with me so far?
That explains how a tzaddik can actually give all these brachas and things like that. They could actually change the teva.
Yes. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu Geyser, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makayim. Yes. So how could that be? The way it is because the tzaddik or the Talmid Chacham, the loy meter lishma le'amito, which I feel is the correct diuk. If that's the case, I'm reading, somebody's asking from Shaar Daled Perek Yud Ches. Thank you.
Isn't it more proper to, he asked the question of tzaddik, it's more proper to say a Talmid Chacham, isn't it? Not
right.
A
it's a Talmid Chacham.
Tzaddik is a Talmid Chacham.
A Talmid Chacham who's a tzaddik, because a Talmid Chacham who's just learning is not a tzaddik, and then he's not learning lishma la'amita. But if somebody's learning lishma la'amita, so you're a Talmid Chacham, a tzaddik, and that's what he's describing over here. Let me ask. This is not. I don't want to call it a deep question, but I mean something I don't understand. I want to be mavar. How do we normally understand Hashgacha Pratis? Hashgacha Pratis means that there is, the way I understand the words, and it's not the way many people say, by the way, Hashgacha Pratius. There's no such thing. Hashgacha Pratit. It means that there's detailed supervision over our lives. Correct? Like if Hashgacha Pratis, somebody doesn't show up for an appointment with me, I get upset. No, Hashgacha Pratis. My car breaks down. Hashgacha Pratis. Something wonderful happens. Wow, look at the Hashgacha Pratis. I miss my plane. The plane crashes. Whoa, Hashgacha Pratis. So Hashgacha Pratis, I understand when we're part of the Marechet, and Hashem is doing Hashgacha Pratis. What's the Hashgacha Pratis if I'm Me'al Shamayim Chastecha? If I'm learning Torah Lishma, so I would think that I'm above Hashgacha Pratis rather than a different kind of Hashgacha Pratis, which is what we're saying here. So why a different kind of Hashgacha Pratis? Like what's yeah.
I mean, it may be because the tzaddik or the Talmid Chacham who's got to that level, he understands more of how the system works, and therefore whatever his gzera is going to be, there's going to be a hashgacha pratis type of gezerah. It's not like a challenge to HaKadosh. It's not a different thing. It's part of the system because he's keyed into it, so he knows.
He gets the system.
Yeah.
But he says here, look at the words. This is what's bothering me. Hunala mikol inyane olam hazeh, or zeh olam, umushkach me'ita yisparach hashgacha pratis lamala meharois koychem atim v'amazolos kolam. And then he goes on to explain that I'm at a different level of hashgacha pratis. You're saying, Yoni, that I understand the hashgacha pratis better. He's saying that I get more hashgacha pratis or different hashgacha pratis. But what I'm saying is, if you're niskadish b'kedushas haTorah and you're part of the like Yaakov said, Hatzadik Gozer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim, you're part of the, you're above the Marechet, so that's not called hashgacha pratis in the Marechet. I'm not being supervised at all. I am part of the supervision process.
Or like a partner.
Yeah, so it seems. And
but
that's
even
the
at that point, but I'm saying even at that point, a human being, however nala they've become, can't change from the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Correct.
Right? And so it's still, even at that level, it would still be, it's still the Ratzon Hashem.
It's the Ratzon Hashem, but it's just funny.
But you're influencing it. You have that koach to influence. Right?
It's funny to call it hashgacha pratis. It's like
one doesn't have to understand it.
What was that? Not hearing a voice. So let me share something with you. It's very deep. Actually, two things, two Ramchals. The first Ramchal is actually written in my Nefesh Hachaim. The first Ramchal, in fact, I copied. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. 1 second. Be good to learn together. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with myself when I'm able to do this. Okay. Here, the Ramchal, this is what you're looking at is Derech Hashem. Derech Hashem, Chelik Sheni, Perek Ches. And I'm just going to take you right down to where I have a little mark there. Nimsu Kan, the Ramchal is Machadash here, and it says the same thing in Das Tfunos, by the way. But it says here, Nimsu Kan, and these important words, and I'm not even sure that I understand them, but with your help and Siyata D'Shmaya, we'll get it. Nimsu Kan, he says, it's important to know, Shnei Minei Hashgacha, that there are not one but two types of Hashgacha pratis. Hashgachas Mishpat Hashem Yisbarach, V'Hashgachas Hashlita V'Hayichud. A, B, Hashgacha 1, Hashgacha 2. Hashgacha 1 is the one that I think we always talk about. Hashgachas Mishpat Hashem Yisbarach. Meaning, Hashem created the world. He created a teva. He created mazolos and all the different things, malachim and whatever else that's in this world that's working, even the spheros. And, don't think that he created it and he walked away. No. We know that there's hashgacha pratis, that Hashem is involved in every drop of the world, and everything has a cheshbon and everything has a din. That's the first kind of hashgacha pratis, hashgachas mishpat Hashem Yisbarach. Yes? Then there's something else which maybe we're not familiar with. Another kind of hashgacha called hashgachas hashlita v'hayichud. Well, anybody hear that? That's a new one, right? Ubishnei hadrachim mashkiach kavoda yisbarach shmo tamid al bruyav. It's not one to the exclusion of the other. It's two things that are taking place. Hashgachas mishpat, hashgachas shlita. The Rambam, the Ramchal rather, in other places calls this hashgachas hashlita. So this is thoughts of the Ramchal. Ki hine hu mashgiach ba'ashkachas hamishpat. Lishbay tamid kol hamasa. That's what we're familiar with. God is in every area of environment. Umashgiach ba'ashkachas hashlita l'kayim b'koychay v'cholosay esabriya. L'loy techrav b'roya. I'm sorry. Umashgiach ba'ashkachas hashlita also l'kayim b'koychay v'cholosay esabriya. Lo techrav b'roya malei bnei adam. Okay. So that's the paragraph that I'm interested in right now. There's two kinds of hashgachas hapratis. Let's memorize this. Important limud. There's hashgachas mishpat and hashgachas shlita. Okay. Does somebody want to suggest what hashgachas hashlita is, or what the difference is between them?
There's something called hanhagas mishpat and hanhagas hayichud. Hanhagas mishpat follows klalim that we understand. Hanhagas hayichud looks at an overarching consideration which is beyond our comprehension, that we have to move forward towards the tikkun ha'olam, and therefore Kadosh Baruch Hu sort of declares martial law, and he circumvents what otherwise would be limited under if it was only Hashgachat HaMishpat was operating.
Very good. I'm wondering, you're saying there's something called Hanhagas HaMishpat and Hanhagas HaYichud. I think there's something called Hashpas HaMishpat and Hashpas HaYichud in the Lashon of the Ramchal, but maybe it means the same thing. And here he adds in the word, which you're quoting probably from the Das Tunais, here he adds in the word Hashgachas Hashlita. Hashgacha, not Hanhaga, Hashlita v'hayichud. And I think that, Rabbi Yitzchak, I think you're partially right, but I think here he's adding something else. Excuse me. I think, give me 1 second, please. I think that, Rabbi Yitzchak, you're referring to something we understand and something we don't understand. I think it's something even simpler than that. There's two levels of hashgacha pratis. Hear me carefully here. One level of hashgacha pratis is what's going on in my life. God forbid, is Mechalel Shabbos, and then things work or don't work for him or whatever. Hashgacha pratis, midas hadin. You know, we all have that kind of relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, shucks, I should have done Marv last night. Things. There's a different thing also, which you got to be God to be able to work this, and that is not that Hashem is watching. Not only that Hashem is watching everything that we do every minute and giving appropriate support and supervision for what we're doing. There is hashgachas hashlita, means that Hashem made the whole world. And the world, not hashgacha klalis. Don't get mixed up, please. Hashgacha plus, every people fall into their mind into categories they've once heard. I'm telling you something new. That not hashgacha klalis, but hashgachas hashlita means that at the end of the day, the world is supposed to look a certain way. And at the end of the day, the world has a process which it goes through, and when it goes through that process, it comes to the Tikkun Olam, and we're back to Gan Eden. I'll give you a mashal. What it means is that, you know, the Nefesh Hachaim brought in Parak Yud Zayin that in L'cha Esav Shebebriya, there's not a piece of grass in the whole creation. She'ein loy malach she'omed alav v'omer loy gadel. That there's not a malach, it's a medrash. It's that the malach doesn't have it. Every blade of grass has a malach which is standing on top of it and saying to it, gadel, grow, 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 grow. So the malach is doing his job in the teva. In other words, grass is not an independent concept. It's tied up to a whole marechet. That's what that means. There's a whole Marechet. There's something else, and that is during the Sheishis Yemei Hamaisa, the time of the Bria, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, let there be grass. And I want the world to be green. And green's a nice color by me. And vegetation is healthy. And let the sky look blue. So it's two different dinim in Hashgacha Pratis. One din in Hashgacha Pratis is that Hashem is making in the Marechet that every piece of grass, you piece of grass will be Zoicha, and you grass won't be Zoicha. I often, if I take a walk, I see, something very, very lush. And right next to it's a plant that's dead. You see this in the fields. Why? So you'll study it for a minute and you'll see, because the way the rain flows through the crevice of the hill, it's hitting this plant and it's not hitting that plant. So the plant has a certain level of luck over here, or Hashgacha Pratis, that it's able to, you're the one who's makabel, and 2 inches later, or 2 inches to the side, it's not makabel, the Mayim Chaim, which is being machayed. So, like we're always davening to Hashem, that we should be in the right flow over here, where when it rains on us. And if you're raining down Parnasa and Briut and Nachas from the Kinder, it should let it rain my way, like let me stand in the right spot. That's Hashgacha Pratis, the way we know it. And you have to be
which Hashgacha is that you were describing? Is that the
first
Shlita
HaMishpat? Hashgachas HaMishpat. Hashgachas HaShlita is different. That it's not about the brook flowing to this plant. It's not, by the way, exclusive. Both are true. There's a big picture here, and the big picture is saying that grass has to grow and crop has to grow. And this is how I'm feeding the world. This was what Hashem decided in the Sheishim Mebrachos. This is the way we're going to feed the world. This is the way we're going to feed the animals. And the animals are going to be, this is not Hashgacha Klatis, but Hashgachas Hashlita, the Hayichud. Now, Rabbi Yitzchak is correct that sometimes we don't even understand the big picture. Unless it says it in the Chumash, how do we know the big picture? We don't even understand, as the Ramchal goes on to say, why Hashem created the world altogether. Certainly we don't understand everything. But I'm just saying there's two things. There's one thing that are not mutually exclusive. There's one Hashgacha Pratis within the Marechet, and there's Hashgacha Pratis outside of the Marechet. And outside the Marechet means this is the way the world goes. So what does it mean? It means that Hashgacha Pratis, that means when a Talmid Chacham learns Torah Lishma Ulamita, or whatever way a person gets to this very high madrega, you're lamala min ha'olamas, you're outside of the Marechet. You see, sometimes Hashem will go against what's right for this person and that person because he's trying to accomplish a goal. I'm sorry to talk about this in such human terms, but this is what I want to say. Like, why did Hashem allow Paro, Vayiksha Hashem as Leiv Paro? Why did Hashem allow Paro to do some of the very, very nasty things that he did? Because he had a plan for the Bria. He had a plan for the Jewish people. And why is it that some Rishayim are just not able to do their wicked? And why did Hashem stop Haman? Because he had a plan for the Bria. The plan for the Bria was that the Jewish people will exist. The Jewish people will move back to Israel. The Jewish people will move back to Yerushalayim and build a Beis HaMikdash. This was Hashem's plan.
This is Lev Malachim Bayar Hashem?
Yeah, of course. But it's not always al pi teva, nachon? So the Hashgacha Pratis within the Marechet, and there's Hashgacha Pratis out of the Marechet. The Talmid Chacham, those are the two Hashgachas that the Ramchal was talking about. So it comes out a Mordecai thing here. He says that it makes a difference. This is, I believe, the correct way to learn this. It makes a difference if you're learning Torah Lishma, or you're learning, or as he says later, even if you're learning Shalei Lishma, it's a good thing, learn. But there's the person who's learning Torah Lishma, that's Gavoa. And then there's the person who's learning as Torah Seinu HaKadosha Lishma La'amita. Think about the word La'amita, Rabotai. Think about the word La'amita. Oh, this is the purpose of the whole creation. In other words, sometimes we say something and it's correct, but it's not correct. In Yiddish, there's an expression, gerecht und gerecht, aber nicht gerecht. So many cases of things that seem so right, but it's not right because you're losing the forest for the trees. You're losing the big picture. So everything you're doing is right, but it's not right. And this is true in the medical world, and it's true in the spiritual world. It's true everywhere. It's true in the financial world. So
does that apply also to when we say emet lamito?
Emes
Same
lamito.
concept?
Perfect.
Same concept.
Same concept. What does emes mean? Very. Thank you. That's excellent. Excellent, Rabbi Yaacov. What does that mean? It means that a beis din is sitting called dayan shidon din emes. Choshen mishpat. You're getting the halachas correctly. You hear the tutzadim, and you paskin a din, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes along with that din. It's a din emes. Kol adon din emes la'amitai. But if you're done dan emes la'amitai, the Shechina Shaar, what does it mean? Done dan emes din emes la'amitai means that not only are you right, but you're really right. You really got to the emes of the thing. You really understand what's going on over here.
It also says nasa shutif lakadosh baruch hu b'ma'aser bracious.
Beautiful. What does it mean? That's the whole kavanah. So by the way, I just want to make my own personal social observation. The dayanim that see this don't always see that. Meaning, like Dafka the dayan who knows every shach and every sma and understands understands technically, which halavai, I would be that way. I don't. But like your instant recall and you got it. This is the din. Yikov adin Zahar. That's usually not the same dayan on the base, and maybe that's why you need three, who sees some kind of a picture and has a regesh that this is not correct. He might be right al pidin, but it's the same thing in lahavdil in the secular legal system. You can come and you can this detail, this loophole, that loophole, but what is the big picture? So that's got to be the same emes or emes la'amita. Very good. Thank you for bringing that up. And it's the same thing in the Torah Lishma. I can learn Torah Lishma. I'm learning Torah Lishma. I'm doing this because Hashem wants me to do it. Lishma. But there's Lishma la'amita is that I'm understanding that I'm dealing on the level of Istakel Baraisa Baralma. That this whole Torah was created as a way to create the world, and we're accessing on a high executive level above the marechet when we're learning Torah Lishma. If Lishma la'amita, in other words, I'm understanding the bria different. I'm understanding the purpose of the world different. I can now paskin. It's like what it reminds me of. If I can just go on this tangent for a second, the subject of the day. It's like, let's say, I'm not pro or con, I'm just giving a mushal. Let's say the government says there should be a seger. Okay, good. So part of me welcomes that because, you don't want to be one of these places where people are, God forbid, dropping dead in the street. Like, I'm all for it. I hear it. I hear the vart, so close the candy store and make a seger. On the other hand, I'm just giving a mushal, the medical aspect of life is really just one part of a big marechet. There's a medical aspect, there's a psychological aspect, there's a financial aspect, there's a Torah aspect, there's an educational aspect, there's looking at what's good for the kids and what's not good for the kids. It's not all, so you can have a bunch of people sitting in a room and maybe they're professors, maybe they're not, and they're looking at a medical situation and they're saying, seger, but are they who's going to take into consideration the other 9 or 90 inyanim that have to be involved here? So that's the hashgachas hashlita as opposed to the hashgacha pratis. That's the hashgachas hamishpat. Mishpat says
in the Rav's marshal, would it be, let's say, somebody who is in favor of the seger because they just think let's restrict people's movement for whatever reason? That's a lo lishma. A lishma would be they want to restrict for the health reasons, and lishma la'amita is because they see all the reasons and they came to their decision based on all those reasons.
That's exactly my mushal. And I'm not talking now politically or what I think about segers. I'm just giving a mushal of the three possibilities. In my opinion, it takes somebody much bigger than a Corona cabinet to be able to see the whole Marechet and what's going to do to the world, and what's this doing to our children, and what's it doing with our educational process, what's it doing to Yiddishkeit, what's it doing with our business, and what happens when small businesses close. It needs a big, big cup. And thank God, I think, by the way, I just say this, I think the government does bring in a lot of different aspects to this, and there are a lot of intelligent people that are discussing it. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying you don't want to paskin in a vacuum. So if you paskin in a vacuum, that's hashgacha hamishpat. No, that's the din. But you're going to go and look for, not just for protexia, you're going to look for some. Can you see a bigger picture?
That's hashgacha shlita, the bigger picture.
The bigger picture is hashgacha shlita, and those are the two hashgachas, and that's the pshat. And loymei Torah lishma, loymei es Torah akdosha lishma ula amita.
A question: where does the concept of lifnim mishurat hadin fit into this system?
What does Shuras Hadin mean? Before we get to Lifnim Shuras Hadin.
It means that, euphemistically, it means that we're not going to go strictly according to the mishpat. We're going to take into account other circumstances that will mitigate whatever the mishpat was supposed to have been.
Right. So the
Shuras
Shuras
is probably milashon yashar, straight. Shuras.
A line, yeah. Shura. There's a line. In other words, there's a certain line of law. Ephraim, I think it's exactly what we're talking about. There's the Shuras Hadin, and then Lifnim Shuras Hadin means not that I'm going to do the wrong thing for you, but like, let's say I want to do you a chesed, and I say, well, you don't deserve that chesed. Maybe I'm right. I'll be Shuras Hadin. Lifnim Shuras Hadin is like, okay, like not everything is about that line. There's the global idea that you need to be helped, and I have the way to help you, so I'm going to go Lifnim Shuras Hadin. And the same thing is Lifnim Shuras Hadin, by the way, is a Choshe Mishpat concept, not a Yordea concept, and not an Arachaim concept. Choshe Mishpat concept of Lifnim Shuras Hadin. Also, this is, by the way, something that always bothered me personally, just philosophically. You go to a Beis Din, which I've been to, I think twice, as a customer. You go to a Beis Din, and right away they want to make a pshara. I say, you should pay $200. You say I should pay $200. Okay, listen, pay $100 a piece and go home. That'll be 200 shekel. So I've always like, you can go to a Beis Din, and you can say to them straight out, this is your permission to say, I want din v'loy pshara. Din v'loy pshara. But the Indian of pshara is an Indian in Shulchan Aruch. It says right in Choshe Mishpat, the Shulchan Aruch says that it's better for the dayanim to try to make a pshara, try to compromise. So, but you can demand, I want din v'loy pshara. We're talking about $500,000 over here. And I know I'm right. I know the guy's just a ganav. I don't want to do a pshara 50-50. I want din v'loy pshara. But pshara is a halachic concept also. You can din v'loy pshara. So it's something like this, that the din v'loy pshara is mishpat. And pshara, which always bothered me as compromise, and I don't like compromises, generally speaking. I'm not a compromise person. It's not my thing, because compromise, nobody's MS. So what it means is, it's also a bigger picture of the din itself. In other words, if the purpose of din is vasisa hayasher va'atoib, and the Chumash says that din will make shalom, so then, if the dayanim decide, and they're good at dayanim hagunim and mumchim, and they decide that the correct way to accomplish the bigger picture is with pshara, so do pshara. A person could say, I don't want to do a pshara, but then you're putting yourself into the realm of din. And the dayanim will always tell you, we learned this in rabbi school, the dayanim will always tell you, if you go din, you might lose everything. Watch out for that din. Even though you're 100% positive that you're correct, Alpidin, but you never know how a din Torah is going to come out, unless you know everything about Roiv and Chazak and every different aspect of Moitzi Mechaver Olav Haraya. And unless you understand every aspect of it, you might lose everything. Maybe you should go with the Pshara.
It's like the story with Churban Abayis, where I can't remember the exact phrase, but because Hamidu Chachamim it's Divrei whatever the phrase is, but because that was when, and then we literally lost everything because of that.
I always think, and I'm just going to end with this. The story that the Gemara in Gittin and Zion, so it blames Shvil Chasidusa Shal Rabbi Tzadok Anvasanusa Shal Rabbi Tzadok Nachrav Habayis. Not Reb Tzadok. And the Gemara tells a story over there that there was a mum in the Kutshim, and he didn't want to bring it because Al Pidin you can't bring it. And anyways, one thing led to the other, caused the Churban of the Beis Hamikdash. And whenever I come to that Gemara, and we talk about it every Tisha B'Av, Tisha B'Av is a big yontiv in our shul, so I talk about it every Tisha B'Av. So I always think to myself this Yiddish expression. Gerecht and gerecht, aber nicht gerecht. Sometimes, here's a tzaddik. Everybody agreed that he was a tzaddik, that he was an anav, anvasanusa, and the Gemara gives 2-3 examples of this, not just one example. 2-3 examples of anvasanusa. It's not a false modesty; it's a misplaced modesty. This is not the time to be medactic in the halacha. This is the time to see the big picture and see what the Roman emperor is thinking about right now, and that we have a Beis Hamikdash state. Now you need big minds to be able to see this big picture. I'm a fan of the Gedolei Yisrael, if they're Gedolei Yisrael, and not just their siyata d'shmai, but if they're able to see, we saw Gedolim, like they were able to see everything. They were able to see a very, very big picture, and
like Rivka and Yaakov.
Yeah.
Rivka saw the big picture. Yaakov didn't see the big picture.
Yes.
Would it be true to characterize the difference as looking at things from not technically true from a limited perspective versus looking at the truth in terms of the grand scheme of things?
It's I think that's what we are saying, isn't it? So that's what we're saying. Yeah.
Haber?
Yes.
I don't want to draw you off the subject, but since we're talking about that particular Gemara, I also don't remember exactly the name of the Gadol, but I think it was something special Ben of Kehillas or something like that. That was his name.
Zechariah Ben of Kehillas.
Yeah. So what's always bothered me about that Gemara is, who in the heck is this guy? I mean, where's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? He was the leader of the Jewish people at the time of the Roman destruction. So, why is his invasanu so? I mean, where are the other Gedolim? I mean, why is it's always perplexed me that Gemara is his particular involvement in that decision making. That never made sense to me.
Correct. And the Chazal have a taina on the Gedolim because of this. But the easy answer is that, people were in charge of different things. He was in charge of the Korbanos in the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wasn't there. Meaning, you have to understand, you give somebody a job and he makes a decision to be Makabel a Korban or not to be Makabel a Korban. It wasn't that they had a meeting at a Sanhedrin to make this decision. And but the Gemara points to it as a pivotal point, just like Kamsa bar Kamsa was a pivotal point. And what does the Gemara say about Kamsa bar Kamsa? So who cares about Kamsa bar Kamsa? The Gedolim were there, v'loi michu. So yeah, I think you're spot on, because I think it's exactly right. But you had to have been there to some extent. But you know what? We're talking about this Gemara in Gittin and Reb Tzadok HaKohen and Zechariah ben Avkilos and all the different things that Chazal were pointing at. It all comes down to the same yesod that we're learning here, not seeing a bigger picture. And I think, by the way, before we make decisions, We have to know that we're, like I say, these two things are not exclusive. But a Talmud Chacham who's loimed Torah l'shma la'amita does see a bigger picture. If there's such a person in this world that's loimed Torah l'shma la'amita, he will see a bigger picture, and in that sense, he's outside of the Marechet. And being outside of the Marechet, different level of Hashgacha Pratis, being outside of the Marechet gives you a completely different insight as to what the big picture is. And like I say, it's not the blade of grass where my job is say gadel, gadel, gadel. That's Zachariah ben Avkilos. It's let there be green, and it's a whole different big picture, which brings into it's so many sugyas which we can't go into because we're over time. The sugya of avera lishma, the sugya of mitzvah ba'avera, the sugya of esei doicha loisasei. So many sugyas in Shas. This is the mafteach to understand that esei doicha loisasei, because esei gets the big picture and lotase tells you the smaller picture. So says the Ramban, not my word. So says the Ramban. So, okay, Mir Hashem, have a good Shabbos, and I want to wish everybody a Freilich and Chanukah.